Look, Atlantic City. Get on.
I wish I were on vacation instead of tying springs, which is what we're about to do. We've secured a row of springs with our big Arnold-type machine. Now we're going to tie the tops.
And we've moved the chaise to another platform, which is lower, so that we're not bending over top of the chaise.
Precisely. This is the most difficult part, in my opinion, the part I hate the most, the part you will hate the most. Doesn't mean you're not going to try it. But you must be comfortable when you do this. You don't want to be too high, too low to hurt your back. You've got to be nice and close and comfortable when you tie springs. What do we need to tie springs? 1, the heavy hemp twine.
Twine.
2, big tacks. Number 14, upholstery tacks. That'll secure the twine to the frame.
And my favorite line, the magnetized tack hammer.
Copywritten for Joe. The other thing we've done is we've measured.
Yes, see? There were original lines on the front of the frame of the chaise.
Pencil marks.
2 3/4. So we measured them all the way around.
That's how low the original springs were. We want to set these new springs to the same height. How do we push them down and tie them at the same time? Well, you can have a large friend, as I do, hold them down while you secure them. If you are alone in this endeavor, and I hope you will not be, you need to get your twine out of the way.
You need someone for encouragement also.
And get a board. You can get a board and lay it in between the coils of a spring.
Right.
And then push that down like that, setting the height. And then you can work kneeling right on the board here. Make sure it's in the right coil, down at the right level, and then begin. All right, I've measured enough string or twine to go the length of the chaise and then half again. That's going to be enough for me to tie all this long row of springs. First thing I do is I secure this end of twine to the frame. I tie a regular knot.
Insert a number 14 tack.
Big one.
Big one.
And then I make sure it's straight out from the frame to my first tie. Insert it into the wood.
And
hit.
Tack.
Hold it, hold it.
Pull tight, pull tight.
Pull tight. Make sure that the knot is so that the string is coming straight out. It doesn't gimp at all.
Little tension on that.
Yes.
As there is on this
Hit.
entire process.
This large man will now hold this down to the desired height.
And holding.
I'm going to loop underneath for my first tie because it's coming away from the frame and I want it at as shallow an angle as I can. Taking a look at the pencil mark, I'm going over and looping around like that. You may now let go.
Feel nice.
That's the height I want it.
And now, tie
Here's
the
the
other
hard part. I want to keep this tension constant. I want to keep the entire spring level and straight up and down. When I loop around here, I want to hold that loop against the spring.
Are you sweating?
I am.
Good.
Schwitzing wie ein Pferd, as we say. See this loop in here? I'm going to use that as my opening to make my knot. This is like tying a package with a weasel in it. It's always trying to get out. When I pull that tight, that's when I release the tension. Let go and let's see. Beauty.
Now this will be tied together.
This will be tied widthwise.
Right.
Now I go to my next spring. My next spring, I want exactly the same height.
I'll hold this down.
Exactly. A little bit higher.
Like that.
I can loop this over the top, pull that through. Now when I pull that, I want that tension. Now let go. Make sure this and this are on the same level.
It's very tense.
Okay.
Yeah. Want to see how long you've been doing this so far?
Very nice. Long enough to get dual thigh cramps. Now, we need that tension once again.
Tension.
Looping it around as before. Keeping that tension all the time.
My thumbs are going to have muscles.
doing an entire chaise like this, if you know what you're doing, it's going to take you 2 hours. If you don't know what you're doing, I would say 2 full days. Do a row, make sure the row is nice, and then do the next row. All right, this loop again, it's going to do our knot.
By the time you get to the last spring, you know how to do this, right?
By the time you get to the last spring, it is a new millennium.
Yes.
See, I kept the tension on, let it go. We're doing good.
Very beautiful.
We are now going to tie a cross. We have theoretically tied an entire length.
Yes.
Now to keep tension on it all 4 ways, we're going to tie a cross. Again, I tie the knot.
This will level off your bed of springs.
Yes, so then my fake here can lay on it.
You need nails. These tacks.
These tacks. Attack the tack. Now, as you remember, this open spring facing towards 2 o'clock or 10 o'clock, depending on
Where you're standing.
which time zone you're in. This time, we're going to loop around both this outer ring and this center ring.
And close them up.
And close them up. A loop underneath.
Loop-de-loop.
Now, although I'm letting this large man continue to be with me, just for comic relief, I don't need his tension so much because I've got it.
Because he has his own tension.
Thank you, Siegfried and Roy. All right, keep that tension over, just like before. And when you tie the knot on this side, just as in wrapping the package with the weasel or Wolverine, if you prefer.
You're repeating yourself now.
I know, well. But a Wolverine is a nice animal. It's half wolf, half nectarine, you know.
I had an uncle who married one.
Pardon my mirth. Now we have the 4-way tied springs. I'm looping around to the next one. This, now I need the tension provided by you.
I'm going to try and get in here so that, how's that?
Very nice, let go. Oh my goodness. It's actually working.
Okay.
We're almost done tying the springs and the strings and the strings to the springs and the strings to the strings.
We tied the springs and now time to tie the strings.
Joe is knotting a number 14 upholstery tack around that bit of twine. He's inserting it into the frame. And he's giving it a zetz, as we say.
A zetz.
Now, as you can see, he's looping it around the spring, around these lengthwise strings. And as we loop around, I shall take over. We pull that way and then that way.
Beautiful.
In order to get a goodly amount of tension. Pulling it that way, goodly, and pulling it this way.
These are tight now, too.
Oh, incredibly tight. This is going to be our last. Please give me that tack hammer.
And wrap around.
Wrapping around after I've knocked it in halfway. All the rest of the way.
The chaise sings now when you bang on it.
And now I knot in this fashion. And what I'm doing now is I'm putting in an additional number 14 upholstery tack. And here, this is what's called my safety knot, the safety knot. So in case this comes out,
That one won't.
that one won't.
Furniture on the Mend will return on TLC.
All right, we're ready for burnishing. Could you use the word burnishing in a sentence?
Yes, I can. Gee, I love to hear that, George Burnishing. I ought to be tarred and feathered for that.
And I have some tar and some feathers.
What is burnishing, though?
Burnishing is a safe, non-toxic finish for all kinds of hardwoods. Oak,
Yes,
rosewood,
yes.
ebony.
But don't use it on a
Ash.
softwood like pine or mahogany, because it will mar the
It will mar the
surface.
surface because what you're doing in burnishing is you're actually rubbing the surface with chrome which is polished steel, or some types of bone.
I'm feeling cool and calm and collected.
Keep rubbing it in.
Literally.
You see how all this grain is coming out as I'm rubbing?
I can see it. Can you? Slimming through burnishing. $89.95, and it's a hunk of metal. Wait a minute, the wheels are turning.
They would turn with you.
Get over here.
Oh, now you're directing. What he really wants to do, folks, is direct.
Just direct. Yeah. Now move over to a little to the right. Over. And what's next?
Now we're ready to wax. We're going to wax with paraffin wax.
Now, what kind of wax is paraffin wax? Put it down.
It's paraffin wax.
Yeah, but why paraffin wax as opposed to any other kind of wax?
Because it is non-toxic, and that's what we said at the outset. This is a non-toxic finish. Paraffin wax, it's the same kind of wax that your grandmother may have used when she sealed her preserves.
Yeah, but your grandmother...
She lived in a condo.
Everything was delivered.
So
we could make a lot of lips out of those.
You can make a lot of lips. I'm past that stage. Now, I put some of these shavings into a can, and I put it into a pot here with water.
And we turned it on.
And that's called a double boiler.
The People's double boiler.
People's double boiler.
Lift this out, but don't burn yourself.
I'm going to lift this out.
Wipe off the bottle.
The wax is melted in there. You can see that. And I'm going to go around. It's going to dry very fast.
This is going to give its protective coating, correct?
Correct.
Since we're not using a varnish or a lacquer or anything like that, and we do want the wood to have a protective coating, that's why we're using the paraffin non-toxic wax. Right there, in the middle. Now it looks like a cake.
It does. Now I'm going to scrape off with this.
Dull, flat paint scraper.
Just
It's easier than writing it, you just have to remember.
Live in the past. This is also good for butcher blocks.
Now I'm going to make this into a lip. Or a big wax tongue.
And you could save these scrapings, too. They're still good. We're time for buffing now. It's time for buffing.
Smoothing the surface, abrasing the surface with burlap.
Comes in a roll. I just cut it off into a size, nice like this.
Not like a dewlap
Crumple
that
it
you
up.
need.
We're already taking care of the sides somewhat.
So just rub as hard as you can.
That's right.
This is my favorite part.
Because you get to watch me.
Yeah, look closely in those knots. We've let the...
I left this in here because...
Because I liked it.
Because he liked it, so...
I thought it was cool. It looked very agate-like. Just smooth, just smooth.
Oh, you're the boss?
Yeah, I'm just smoking a cigarette and pointing.
And that's it.
It's lovely. It's smooth. It's burlapped.
Put the leg in.
Okay.
We decided to make tables out of these.
3 of them.
Bought the set, 4-leg set. At the hardware store, comes with these flanges that we just screwed in.
The flange and painted in black.
Painted in black for a nice effect, light and dark.
That was easy.
It was very easy. For you to say, you didn't even sweat.
And yet people send me money.
Figure that one out.
Furniture on the Mend will return on TLC. Furniture on the Mend now returns on TLC.
Look what we've done.
It's all been tailored already, folded over, and then snipped clean.
Snipped around so we have our basis for the padding. It's nice and tight, but what's wrong? It's a hill. We don't want a hill.
No.
We want a flat plane.
Flat plane.
Flatness to put the fabric on it so people don't roll off.
Right.
Now, there are a lot of ways to do this. Here's
Sausage.
one way. Sausage.
This is an edge roll.
Edge roll. With 6, you get edge roll. And how this works is that it's put in all around the outside and tacked in with number 14 upholstery tacks right here. But as you see, there'd still be this valley. What would you put in the valley to make this meet this and be flat? Foam. Got a big sheet of foam. What would you do?
Put this down here
You'd custom cut this foam in a horseshoe shape.
to go around the edge.
You'd cut it out and you'd lay that in a strip just like this in order to raise this to meet here, and then you'd get a flat plane, right? Are we going to use any of these? No, we are not.
We're
Why?
going to use this because we love you. You, big you.
All right. Look,
But this is the old, original edge roll.
it looks like a horseshoe. Remember we were going to custom cut that in a horseshoe
See
shape?
this?
We don't need to. This is the old edge roll. Out here, it's made out of horsehair.
Up here.
It's made out of horsehair.
I like that.
And what's all this gooky stuff here? That is spray adhesive.
Which we use to seal our
This-
burlap wrap.
Yes, and we sprayed it all over, and then we sealed it, and now it's a big fat edge roll. Now, when we lay this
is a
down
Phoenix
here,
roll.
more of a Phoenix roll, exactly. When we lay this down here, we're going to have a lot of depth, and all we'll have to do is fill this in with the cotton padding that we're going to use next. How are we going to adhere this? Two ways. One, I'm going to tack this into the frame right here using the ubiquitous upholstery hammer and the
Number 14,
long and deadly
tack.
number 14 tacks, magnetized. Then,
What a world we live in.
to adhere it inside, I'm going to use this, the strong thread and the very large curved needle. Look at that. That is a giant one. And I'm just going to stitch that down into the burlap. That's our base over our spring.
So that when you pull tight, it's not going to come off.
Exactly.
It's going to be anchored to the
Exactly.
inside.
For an extra amount, you might want to use the spray adhesive. We're not going to do that. You push right down straight in, and you're using the curvature of the needle to go in
Oh, you're coming up like a
like a submarine,
porpoise or something.
breaking the surface and pulling it all the way through. See how it's coming down? And then I'm gonna go
Jay
in.
Silverheels.
Gonna go in using that curvature straight on down the line. And when I pull, it's gonna pull tight. And I'm gonna go straight down into it again.
Padding.
Adding the padding.
What kind of padding is this?
Yussel, that is cotton padding.
And you can buy this at an upholstery store, right?
If they'll let you have it. We're keeping the theme of trying to make everything flat.
Flatness.
See, it's got a dome and a trough, and the back goes down. So what we're going to do, our first layer is going to go the full length, and we're going to fold it over and build this up. Next, we're going to cut strips. We're going to show you how to lay over top
Of the U.
of the edge roll, the big horseshoe.
The U.
And then we're going to put a final layer over top of everything and see what happens. You know, if in the middle of it, if you feel that you're not getting enough flatness, then add some more, build up parts that you feel are too low, play it by ear.
Because this is going to adhere to each other,
I
each
think so.
layer.
Yeah,
and
we're
then
not-
the fabric, once it's pulled tight, it'll make a nice surface. First piece.
The first piece that we have pre-cut, and we want to roll this because this back goes down a little
See how easy it tears.
a little lower. Now remember, this back is going to be covered by an inside back that's going to have its own padding. It's going to come out to here. Later, we might want to pad this up underneath. Pull it all the way out to the edge there.
You're padding the bit. Wait, hold on.
I'm padding the bit.
Watch your mic.
Watch my mic. Now I want to rip this up. When you're tearing it,
Fuzzies.
you can tear this. Just be careful because it'll shred up. Now we want to roll this in. We're going to take off a little excess on the outside. Lay your hand like that and pull away. Now, next step is we
We're going to pick up and we're going to stuff in.
roll this edge in there. Because remember, this trough is deeper than any of the other parts. Now we're going to lay the strips. Starting from here, I'm going to cut this back a little bit so it'll blend in there. Like that. And take it away. We want this to come out even with here. We're not going to lap over anything with the padding until the very last layer of
Well,
padding.
you can see how nice and flush it looks now.
We're going to do it again.
Let's put
we
this
have
other piece
strip.
on.
No, we're going to put on
You
one
want another
more
strip?
Yeah, one more strip, because remember, when the fabric rolls over the top, you want a nice, it's going to be pulling down here. When the fabric is pulled here, the natural inclination for all the stuffing is going to be to lay down. So we want to build up a little extra there.
Okay, build up an extra.
Build up extra. I'm not going to build this up inside. We have the beginning of our roll effect. That's going to look so nice when we spread our fabric over it. Now,
It's
for
like
the last layer of padding,
marshmallow fluff, it looks like.
an entire sheet over top of everything. All right, be gentle, be gentle.
It sassed me.
Just like the first piece, this is going to go all the way back, but it's going to go over everything, absolutely everything. Now this time...
Pull it over there on the side. Let's even it up.
Okay. Now this time, this last piece is going to lap over the entire outside, and it's going to come down
Just like that.
to where the fabric is actually going to be attached. So we're going to cut off our edge here, our corners. We're not going to roll anything. We might have to add a little later. The only thing we're going
Once
to...
the fabric goes on, we can stuff in.
Exactly. The only thing
These
we're going to
little
trim up
Gaping holes.
is around this. And now we pull it down. We're going to pull it down carefully, not to pull
The strip.
the strip that it's laying on top of.
How far down you want to go?
All the way to where that the fabric's going to be attached to the top of the wood here.
Look, isn't that lovely? It's a lovely panning shot of the padding.
Yeah, but there were so many close-ups on the show.
Now we're out of time.
And we can't really say goodbye except in this voiceover kind of thing.
That's right. And do you think people will recognize